morning. Good evening, and welcome to Try This at Home. This is Dayna Martin. I want to thank Dave Lizio for creating the intro for my radio show, the new intro. Dave's the guitarist for the amazing metal band Nonpoint. Dave has been a follower and fan of my work for quite some time now, and I've connected with he and his wife, who are expecting their first baby any day now. I was their childbirth teacher over Skype. We've got to love technology, but what an honor to be a childbirth teacher to a rock star and his wife with their first baby. That was a great experience connecting. So thanks again, Dave, for the awesome intro for my show, and I really love the support and appreciate you so much. So, well, welcome to Try This at Home. This is Dayna Martin again. I am here and happy to talk to you about unschooling and peaceful parenting and freedom-based living. Last week's show, my son Devin co-hosted with me. It was a great show. We talked about common unschooling misconceptions, and there's so many out there, misbeliefs surrounding this life. And Devin's an awesome co-host. He's so authentic. I've been advocating for unschooling for probably about 8 years now, and for peaceful parenting for about 12 years. So Devin, since he was probably 6 years old, has been doing different TV spots and radio interviews, and he's 15 now. So for a really long time, Devin's been involved in advocacy, and it's just part of his life. I think when you grow up with an activist as a mother, it just becomes something that you get used to. And what happened this week, advocacy-wise, well, I tend to let things unfold organically in my life when it comes to opportunities. But on my way home from bringing Ivy to gymnastics yesterday, I pulled into a convenience store. And there's a sign that's been hanging in the store, a poster, for years now. And every time I go in, it just bothers me. It's a picture of a little boy on the hood of a car screaming. And there's some kind of funny story that goes along with it about tough love. And it's really disrespectful. It's meant to be humorous. And I realize that the owners of the store put it up there to be funny, but for years it's bothered me. And it's just progressively gotten worse every time I go in there. I just find it more and more disrespectful, and my kids now have started to notice it. And when we go in there, they just say, "Why is that hanging there?" The average person wouldn't even think it was a big deal, probably. It's just this joke about teaching your kids tough love by putting them on the hood of the car and driving them around and scaring the shit out of them, basically. But it's really disrespectful. So I had an idea. I pulled into the store, and I had my daughter Ivy with me, who's 9, and I said, "Can you record this for me?" And I approached the owner of the store, and I said, "Would you mind being on video with something I want to ask you about in the store here?" And he said, "Sure." And I said, "Okay, great." So she started rolling, and I asked him if he would mind being open enough to hear why I disagreed with his poster and if he'd be willing to take it down. I think when you're advocating, a lot of the advocacy out there for whatever it is, the activism sometimes can be really in your face and handled really negatively and, assuming negative intent. So I tend to approach things differently, which is something I've learned over the years, but it comes really natural to me. I just was really nice to him and just said, "I know it wasn't your intention to be offensive. However, can I explain to you why it is?" I said, "What if there was somebody's wife on the hood of the car and it said these awful things about tough love with a woman? I mean, would that be acceptable?" And he understood, and I said, "Would you be willing to take it down?" And he said, "You can take it down yourself." So I did, and that video is now on YouTube. Unfortunately, the audio is really kind of crappy, so I'm in the process of having it transcribed, and you'll be able to hear exactly what I'm saying throughout the video. But I want people to see it, to know that you don't have to be afraid to speak up for what you believe in. I think most people are afraid because they think there's going to be confrontation. But when you handle something really peacefully and lovingly and kindly and understanding that, I knew the owner of the store wasn't. Good evening. This is Dayna Martin live for Try This at Home. Thanks for tuning in to the beginning of a show from a couple weeks ago. We are here live now, and we are here with my son Devin. He's co-hosting with me today.
Hello.
Yeah, people seem to love when I co-host with Devin, so I love having him here, and he loves being here. So I wasn't on last week, part of the reason why the other show was playing. We had a show run 2 weeks in a row, but we are here live this evening. And last Wednesday, the reason I didn't have a show is because it was my birthday. My family and I went on a really long hike. It was really fun. Well, I should speak for myself and my son Devin, the younger kids. It was a little rough for them. But I also, for my birthday, my family got me a tattoo, which maybe is an unconventional birthday gift, but I love tattoos. I have several. I've been tattooed about 9 times and have a total of 3 really large pieces, and every single year on my birthday I add to them. So that was a really awesome experience. I love my tattoo artist. She is vegan and she only tattoos with vegan ink, which is something not a lot of people know about. Most tattoo ink is made with animal products, with animal bone, charred animal bone, and several different animal products. So I love that I'm more in a state of awareness. So only 2 of my tattoos are made with vegan ink, but now that I'm in a state of awareness, it's great to be able to advocate for that. So what have we done this week? Well, today, Devin and I, we ran a bunch of errands in town and we went to Home Depot. You were looking for some kind of item. What were you making?
I was trying to work on some candle holders, but they didn't have what I needed, so I had to improvise.
Those of you that aren't aware, Devin is a blacksmith, and the guy at Home Depot was kind of surprised, I think, when we said that, and he was excited, saying people are always looking for blacksmiths.
Yeah.
I don't know if he knew how old you were.
Yeah, I don't know. It seemed like he thought I was, like, living off of it, but...
Right. I think he would have been surprised if he knew you were just turned 15. But your Etsy store seems to be doing well. You sold a few things this week.
Yeah, so I'm going to get some more money in from that tomorrow, and, yeah.
Bladesmithing is an interesting craft. It's nice to facilitate that for you. It's interesting living a peaceful life. Part of the reason why we're unschooling and living this life is to live in more peace. But yet, some people find that bladesmithing is kind of promoting violence because you're making knives. What do you think about that?
Most of my knives most of my knives are not weapons. They're tools, for out in the woods and stuff like that. Like, I only have a couple knives that are actually, modeled after weapons, but I haven't actually sold them. And, yeah, I don't think making knives promotes violence in any way.
Yeah, it's interesting how so much is blamed when it comes to teenagers on violent video games or heavy metal music, instead of parents taking responsibility of the fact that the authoritarian paradigm of parenting is very violent and controlling and abusive in itself. So that is truly where children learn this, because children learn what they live. So when you live in a peaceful partnership paradigm with respect, your children learn that that's how to be in this world. So it is not video games causing violence, people, unless you're a totally non-connected parent and your child is influenced in that way. But in our life, video games are fun and not a source of any kind of violence. Speaking of being a teenager, Tiffany and I, my daughter, who's 12, really like the Lifetime network. I like the Lifetime movies.
I don't.
I know, the men in the house don't appreciate Lifetime like us women do. But one thing that really shocked me is yesterday when we were watching, a commercial came on, and it was called, every Wednesday, it's called It Sucks to Be a Teen Wednesday Movie. Now, I don't know how that makes you feel, being a teen, but that stereotype of it sucks to be a teen is so accepted. Like, it's normal. Like, your life is supposed to suck if you're a teenager. Imagine if that was called It Sucks to Be a Woman Wednesday. You know, like, that is so degrading. So, what do you think about that? I mean, the whole stereotype of being a teen and life having to suck.
Well, I think for a lot of teens, life does suck. I mean, I know it's a stereotype, but a lot of people just accept that. I don't know. I think, with all the new emotions that teenagers are developing, it gets kind of crazy, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I think when you're a teenager, rebellion is really thought to be common, though that's part of becoming a teenager. But in my experience, connected with hundreds of unschooling families with teens and raising now 2 teens myself, I realized that rebellion is not part of the package. When there's nothing to rebel against and you're not the person standing between your teen and their desires, I mean, everybody has their difficulties and ups and downs. I mean, we're human. We get into discussions and work through things as a family, but rebellion is definitely not something I've ever experienced with you. Yeah. Why else do you think culturally they say it sucks to be a teen?
I don't know. I mean,
when you see that, or you see that on TV portrayed of teens angry and unhappy, and I mean, can you relate to that at all, or do you?
No, that's their problem. They gotta work through it. I mean,
well, they can't, unfortunately, because most teens are really controlled.
Yeah. else it is. I can really forget it now.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of the teens that Tiffany takes dance class with, they're grounded a lot. You know, one girl didn't even know why she was grounded, and she just knew that she was, and she was so unhappy. And so, the interesting thing about it is, I see a lot of teens, so many different sides to them. They become different people around other people, and that's something in the unschooling community with free kids. They are themselves wholly, no matter who they're around. I don't see you change your personality when you're talking to your friends and I come in the room. But growing up, oh my God, we all were different around the adults in our lives than we were behind closed doors. That's definitely something I appreciate, is your wholeness and you not needing to become somebody different to please the adults in your lives and get what you want. So, I mean, that's just one benefit of unschooling. Anyone listening, if you're not aware, I'm an unschooling advocate, radical unschooling specifically. And they differ in that radical unschooling is based in a partnership parenting paradigm where our children have never been punished. We don't live by rules. We live by principles. Our lives are about everybody's needs mattering equally, which is really different when you think about it, when you think about your own past and how parenting is today, focused on meeting the parent's needs solely. And the parent's role in the parenting dynamic is to train their child, to take orders and be obedient and meet the needs of the adult. And that is not how we're living at all. And it's so amazing how peaceful and loving this perspective is and how it gets so much controversy. I think parents are so petrified to let go of control because they think it's going to make their lives harder. But at the same time, in the same breath, they think this is lazy. So it's just this hypocrisy and this complication of this philosophy just that's so prevalent because parents don't want to accept it, thinking that it's much easier to control their child and they're going to lose themselves somehow by respecting their child's needs. But it's not true at all. In fact, when you model for your children that everybody's needs matter, they know that about you as well. I mean, my kids, if I'm grumpy or tired, they know that I'm hungry and they might remind me to go eat. They're here to support me. If I need help, they're here just as much as I am for them. Although I'm a guided, respected leader in their lives, I respect them just as much, and they teach me so much. So, okay, let's talk about parenting in the news. There's all kinds of crazy parenting stuff in the news this week. I couldn't even pick one article. Sometimes it's hard to find certain parenting stuff in the news, but this week was a bonanza, all kinds of stuff. One article that blew my mind was that 10,000 toddlers across the U.S. are being diagnosed as hyperactive and receiving drugs such as Ritalin and Adderall. And the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have announced a new report. The 2- and 3-year-olds, especially those families who are on Medicaid, are getting the drugs, even though the American Academy of Pediatrics doesn't even have guidelines for ADHD in toddlers. Can you imagine drugging your 2-year-old with Ritalin? Who is doing that? And it's all for the sake of obedience. It's all so the parents can control the child more. And the really sad thing about it is from an evolutionary standpoint, in human history, I was reading this great article about how children born today in this generation are highly sensitive and they are change makers. They are being born completely resistant and pushing up against authority and saying, no, I'm here for so much more than just mere obedience and taking orders and being subservient. I am here to make change and my needs matter. And the more we evolve as humans in this way, the more children that are demanding that and that really can't live any other way. And so these kids that are being born today, I can't even imagine drugging just to meet your needs for obedience and compliance and to make life easier, drugging 2- and 3-year-olds. But this article goes on to say that there's no evidence that drugging toddlers even works. And I would love to know what they mean by works. Because what are they trying to cure? I don't know. Oh, hyperactivity, I guess. So 2- and 3-year-olds, I guess, are supposed to sit like the elderly with their, unfortunately the elderly in our culture aren't respected any more than 2- and 3-year-olds. But they're just supposed to sit there like vegetables, and it's sad. So doctors say that drugs that treat ADHD can stunt growth and cause insomnia and loss of appetite, even in older children. Dr. Diller noted that while in the U.S., 4% of the world's population, it uses 70% of the world's Adderall and Ritalin. So in our country alone, 70% of the Ritalin in the world is given to our children, which is so sad. 11% of American children ages 4 to 17 have been diagnosed with ADHD. Kids with a disorder have trouble paying attention, controlling impulsive behaviors, and are overly active, which can cause trouble at school or home. Well, God forbid they cause, they're inconvenient for their parents and teachers. Can our culture see how unbelievably unjust this is to drug children from being children? You cannot. The side effects and the results of doing this to kids is so profound. You're hurting children's minds. You're changing who they're meant to be. I absolutely love that we're not part of this system. I find it really important to research this kind of thing, to know what the world is like. I had a girl that was going to be on the show tonight, and her parents wouldn't let her be on because she was in school, and they were fearful of what it would mean if a lot of people knew who she was in making herself public on the show. And there's so much fear in our culture. There's fear of this level of freedom. And I work with parents regularly who fear is the backdrop. Okay, let me finish this article. Some doctors say ADHD medications could be a last resort physicians turn to when toddlers might harm themselves. But others note having lots of energy and acting out is simply part of being a young child. Many parents are disturbed by the CDC's findings. I don't know how you diagnose somebody. I mean, if they're hyper all over the place, then you probably have a 2-year-old, says Craig Lewis, a dad. Hello, amen. Doctors say more studies are needed of the effects of ADHD drugs on children so young. The CDC's findings follow a trend that found 7.5% of U.S. children ages 6 to 17 are taking some sort of prescription medicine for emotional or behavioral difficulties. The sad thing is the emotional and behavioral difficulties are caused by the advice of the very people, doctors and so-called experts, that are prescribing these drugs. And to me, I kind of wonder if it's part of a bigger picture, a bigger scheme. It kind of reminds me of, I've been a childbirth teacher for almost, 13 years now. And I think about the fact that so many of the problems that happen during birth are caused by the medical management of birth. That if there was no intervention or no messing with the natural process, then these side effects and dangers wouldn't even occur to begin with. So the very people that are causing your so-called problems or emergencies are the ones that are then fixing it, and you're thanking them for it, when in fact they caused it. And I think the very same thing is true with children on these drugs. I mean, you wouldn't believe at these well child visits, which I haven't gone to in a decade. I do not bring my kids for well child visits. We utilize the doctor when needed if our children have a true medical emergency, but these well child visits are all about control, comparing, obedience, and the advice that you get from these nurses who aren't parenting experts. These nurses and doctors, they're giving advice on how to control and train children into obedience. So children, especially like the ones I'm saying being born today, who are pushing up against control, are being controlled, and then the parents are following the advice of these experts who are then prescribing these drugs. So it's really not any different than the whole birth system. I've been running into a lot of people lately pregnant. And the last 2 women I've talked to, amazingly, in the last 48 hours, are both getting scheduled C-sections. It hurts my heart so much when I hear this, because when I asked them both, they said that they were afraid to go into labor. And so all they did was say to their healthcare provider, their doctors, that I'm really afraid to give birth. I'm afraid it's going to hurt. I'm scared of what could go wrong. And they instantly said, well, let's just schedule your C-section. Which I find so sad, because for one, doctors make a hell of a lot more money with surgery. And hey, they don't have to hang out for, 8, 12, 10, 1,000 million hours, however many hours it takes to labor. I've been with women who labor for 6 days. I mean, doctors can't even imagine investing that kind of time to get paid less when all they have to do is schedule a 20-minute C-section. Bam, they get their new boat. Bam, baby comes out. They cover their asses with liability instead of, it's much riskier for them in the system to let a woman deliver naturally for them and that philosophy. I offered both of these women free doula service. How amazing is that? That they don't even realize what a gift they would have, but they don't want the gift. They didn't ask me. I just said, hey, if you want to do this naturally and I know you can do it. If you want to work through your fears, I'm here, and I'm happy to be with you during your labor to ensure that you have the best birth possible. And they both were so petrified. That's one thing I love about my childbirth classes, is people slough off the fear in the 6 to 8 weeks that we're together. But anyway, What do you think you're going to do, Deb? I know you're Devin and Destiny. Destiny is Devin's girlfriend. They've been together for how long now?
About 2 years.
It's pretty amazing for a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
I know you guys already talk about starting a family and so forth, and you want to... Oh, Devin and I have been watching that show. What is it called? The Alaskan Bush People?
Yeah.
Have you guys seen the show? It's crazy. It's so amazing. This family, how they live off the land like that. Do you want to be that extreme?
No, I don't want to be that extreme. I feel like there's still too much with the outside world that I wouldn't live like that. If I were to live like them, I'd go all the way, and I would not have any moderate goals. I wouldn't do anything except for just be out there. I wouldn't have a vehicle or anything like that. But I'd like to be in between that and now.
How about Destiny? What does she want? Do you guys talk about it?
Yeah, she says the same thing.
Yeah. You guys will, I don't know if you could both live without internet.
No, we're gonna have internet. I've learned most of the things I know from the internet in regards to, different, crafting things and historical things.
I know the internet's such an amazing tool for you. You've learned so much.
We both agreed that we don't want TV though.
Oh, really?
But mostly because it's a waste of money, and by the time we're adults, everything is going to be online anyways.
True. I get a lot of people don't have TV. They just watch everything on Netflix or live streaming. So I want to remind listeners that you can call in to Devin and I live tonight. Our call-in number is 1-718-717-8296. 1-718-717-8296. Feel free to call in. Ask us anything on your mind. We are here at service to you to help you understand this philosophy and this life. Let's go to another crazy article about parenting. Is this child abuse? Devin, tell me if you think this is child abuse. A 17-year-old drops after eating only chicken nuggets since age 2. The teenager taken to the hospital after passing out from complications due to a hazardous diet. Now, this is a slippery slope here, Deb, because the article says that the mom allowed her to eat whatever she wanted. Let me just go on to read, and you tell me your opinion, but hear the whole thing first. Stacey Irvine looks surprisingly well for a 17-year-old who's eaten only chicken nuggets since she was 2. But when she recently went to the hospital after passing out from struggling to breathe, doctors told her that she absolutely had to eat more healthy. She's been told that in no uncertain terms that she'll die if she carries on like this. But Stacey says she can't eat anything else. Her mom, Yvonne, told UK's Daily Mail, "It breaks my heart to see her eating those damn nuggets. I'm at my wit's end. I'm praying she can be helped before it's too late." Stacey claims never to have tasted fruit or vegetables in her life, but admits to sometimes eating fries and toast. "McDonald's chicken nuggets are my favorite," said Stacey. Yvonne says her 2 younger children eat normally and that she's tried depriving Stacey of food to force her to expand her repertoire. In the hospital, Stacey was injected with much-needed vitamins, and doctors found that she suffered from anemia and inflamed veins in her tongue due to her obsessive diet. I've never heard of inflamed veins on someone's tongue. It's hard to imagine that in the 15 years since Stacey tasted her first nugget at McDonald's, her mom has been unable to influence her to eat the minimal level of nutrients necessary to sustain a human being. Do you think this level of leniency qualifies as abuse? How have you gotten your kids to expand beyond their comfort foods? Well, I wouldn't really say it's leniency, because I would love to hear like the behind the scenes of how this mother really dealt with it. Because if she dealt with threats and control, the resistance and rebellion to eating healthy foods would make perfectly logical sense to me. Mm-hmm. So to me, this feels like, I know in my life with you guys, you used to, when you were young, you would have like breads and crackers. And I think when a child's really young, say 2, their diet is really limited. They don't like a lot of things. They kind of stick to what they know and what they like. And the older they get, the more experimental they get. But with freedom and non-control, giving you information, you believe what I say. You know I'm not trying to control you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted about that. I have 2 different opinions, kind of, and I don't know which one I like better. I mean, I think it's partially self-abuse. How the hell could you only eat chicken nuggets? I can barely even eat them, because I just think they're nasty. I haven't even had them in years. But I'm utterly surprised that she survived that long on a strict diet of that. You know, how many freaking vitamins are in that, and there's like nothing in that. Not even real chicken, probably. And
I know,
I
right?
can't believe, if that was my kid, I just would stop buying them. Then she wouldn't get them.
Well, that's what she said she tried. But she said she tried stop not buying them, but she just wouldn't eat anything else.
Trust me, you can go 43 days without eating anything until you die. I'm pretty sure any human would eventually get their primitive mind kicked in and they'd eat anything before they died.
Think about it, though. Think about it. Like, okay, so you have a child. Would you really let your child be in day 20 and, like, starving to death?
They wouldn't get that far. I honestly don't think they'd get that far.
Your children, maybe not. I'm saying, in 43 days, where the heck did you get 43 days? I'd be dead after 5 days without food. Where does 43 days come from? Well, I mean, I know you're right. You're the one that does the research. I've just never heard of being able to live for that long without food.
You have about 4 days without water. Actually, it's 40 days. It kind of varies. 40 days. 4 minutes without oxygen, 4 days without food, 40 days without, 4 days without water, 40 days without food.
Okay. Your body just kind of consumes itself, I guess.
Yeah. And it varies depending on how big you are. But so that's around 40 days. I think any person, anyone, unless they have a very, very, strange mental disability, would eat something.
Well, that's why my thought is that, like, I didn't think of the whole point of self-abuse. Like, what kind of human that is educated about nutrition? Why on earth would she only eat that? Is depression part of the issue? Is she not happy? Why would you only feed yourself, the one being you're supposed to love the most and nurture and care for? If the mother didn't educate, you have to educate and be in partnership to be influential toward your kids. They need to trust what you're saying. And if this mother was in a state of complete control and shame and fear and anger and threats, I could totally see where a child would be like, fuck you, no, I'm not eating anything but this. You try to control me. It's almost like a weird form of anorexia or a weird form of control. I know anorexia, when I was a teenager, I suffered from anorexia for 2.5, almost 3 years, and I know that it was all about control. It was the one thing in my life I could control when everything around me was controlled and forced and unhappy. So you wonder, with this girl, what else was going on. So I don't think anybody could judge. I definitely don't think it was abuse any more than what if she was anorexic? Would that be considered abuse?
She doesn't look like that.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, obviously she's not.
Yeah.
She lived on McDonald's food. But to say that the mother is abusive, well, she might be abusive in the sense of controlling her.
I don't know. I think I wouldn't buy them I would never buy McDonald's food for my kids anyways. But if that was happening, I wouldn't buy it for them, and if they still did need it after a very, very long time, I'd get them a therapist immediately.
Yeah.
Because that is an insanity.
Well, the discussion on my author page about this topic is very heated and very intense, so I invite you to go to Dayna Martin author page on Facebook and just read what other people are saying. Because some people are being really kind of in my face and saying, well, that's, they get to do whatever they want when they want. This is what happens. And I want to say, no. This is not an unschooling mother who is giving her child freedom to choose, because I don't know a single unschooler who doesn't want to be healthy, who has true freedom, who doesn't want to be healthy, and who doesn't want to strive for that. So there was a lot going on there that we do not know about. But thank you for your insight, Dev. I didn't think of that with self-abuse portion. I need to jump on my page now and write that. All right, what else is in the news?
Oh, we're already halfway through.
Yeah, well, we started a little bit late tonight.
Oh, well, so yeah, like 3 minutes.
Yeah, my pre-recorded show. I love this time with Devin. It's really interesting to be able to do a radio show like this because life is just cruising along for me. I have 4 kids. We're together all day, every day, including my husband. Right before I came up here for the show, I dyed Ivy's hair. She wanted her hair ombre, and for those of you that don't know, it's when like the bottom half is lighter than the top half. So I was bleaching her hair right down to minutes before the show and getting sweet potatoes in the oven. And I'm running up here to connect with all of you. So please, again, feel free to call in. We'd love to have your questions or just comments. Call in. Let us know how you're feeling about what we're sharing tonight. The call-in number is 1-718-717-8296. And I want to take this moment to thank UCY Radio. They have been an amazing support. I've never experienced having a radio show before, so I don't know what to compare it to. And all I can say is this is a really amazing network to be connected with. When I've talked to other people hosting radio shows on other networks, they complain about who they're, working with. And I have nothing but amazing things to say, especially for Jules. She's such a great support. She's always here for anything I need. Any glitches come up, she supports me and says, don't worry about it. And I'm very supported in what I bring to this network, and that's parenting and unschooling information. So I'd love to hear from you about what you'd like to hear Devin and I talk about. Ooh, let's see. Oh my gosh, this last thing I want to share with you guys in the news. Crazy. It is a policy that was implemented. I know, right? I know, and I'm sorry about the background noise too, guys, in the show. I have some people complain about banging, and I don't really hear it, but keep in mind that my house was built in 1926. It is far from noise-proof, and I have 3 other children downstairs. I'm just a mom sitting up in my own little studio here in Devin's room.
Hey, it's my room.
In your room, in my studio. I know, and you're so generous. He's such a sweet son to let me come up here. I literally transform his room into a studio once a week for 2 hours almost, and you're so gracious at doing that. I appreciate it so much. But we have a dog and 3 kids and a husband, so things might be loud in the background. Sorry, this is what you get. So, okay, a policy implemented by a 3rd grade teacher at Mill Plain Elementary forces children to pay $50 in Monopoly money in order to use the restroom. Children receive the fake cash for good behavior and can also choose to buy pizza, popcorn, and toys.
Toys. Wait, what grade is it?
3rd grade.
Oh, okay.
Children receive the fake cash for good behavior. Yes, that's wonderful. Just to go pee. You have to be good to have a basic human function. Jasmine Al-Ayadi, whose daughter Reem wet herself, says that she supports children learning the value of money, but argues that the bathroom policy goes too far. When it comes to a bathroom issue, when a child has to pay money to use the bathroom, that's just plain wrong, said the mother to KATU News. It's inhumane, and that's a health issue. Al-Ayadi says Reem, who is down to her last $50, desperately wanted to buy popcorn with her friends and attempted to wait until after class to use the bathroom. Okay, if you want to use the bathroom, it's going to cost you $50, but then you don't have money to buy popcorn, she said. What do you think a child's going to do? Reem, who had no choice but to now change into boys' basketball shorts provided by the school, says she was picked on by fellow students. It didn't feel so well because I had to wear boys' pants and I got teased, she said. Despite being told that she would be contacted by the school's principal on Friday, the mother said that she only heard from the school after a second child came forward. Mersharon Ortega, whose daughter Lillian wet herself that same day, was visibly upset with the policy as well. What kind of kid is going to spend money to go to the bathroom? No child should have to pay to use the restroom. Are you kidding me? That's absolutely insane. Ortega, who had to change into using a used pair of clothes, also says she felt humiliated. It makes me feel kind of horrible in somebody else's pants and undies, said Lillian. The teacher in question was not seen at the school Monday, reported leaving while an investigation was underway. This is school, Al-Ayadi said. This isn't jail. This isn't a prison. We send our kids to school to learn and get a good education. Well, surprise, surprise, mothers of America. This is like jail, and it is like a prison. And this is just one more example of how that's true. I know so many people are resistant to hearing this. I know if school is a choice your child's making and they are choosing to be there, using it as a resource to truly learn and grow from, which usually if a child's choosing to be there, that's not the case. It's because home is even more restrictive. If a child's choosing school, I know it's the very rare occasion that a child chooses school over home. But I know a lot of kids who have been in the system for a couple of years, and they're just so indoctrinated that they can't even fathom. They're told how ridiculous it is to be homeschooled, or they're told that they'll have no social life. And school is very much like a prison. There's nothing more similar to prison than the way schools are run today. So can you imagine, Dev? Well, you don't even know what it would be like to ask to go to the bathroom. Have you ever in your life asked to use the bathroom?
Probably a couple times jokingly, but no, like I told you in the car earlier today, I wouldn't even get that far. I feel like I don't know.
Picture yourself in 3rd grade though, okay, so you're 9,
okay.
You're Ivy's age.
Okay.
And the teachers have really broken you down and overpowered you, and you know that speaking up means punishment and embarrassment and shame.
Probably wouldn't do anything at that age, but at this age, like I said in the car, I'd punch the principal or the teacher. I don't even know. I'd punch someone in the neck, get expelled. I don't care what the consequences are. I'm not gonna freaking pay to go to the bathroom. Go live out in the woods. I don't care.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's unbelievable when, I mean, think about, you are one of the most peaceful people I know on earth, no exaggeration, in all of your resolutions with anyone I've ever known. And you're even saying you would resort to violence when controlled.
Yes, I would.
Why do you think there's so much violence in our culture? It's not because humans are innately violent. It's all a resistance to control. That if we let go of control and we can shift to trust with people are just so used to being controlled, though, that people think when they let go of control, people that have kind of experimented in unschooling, radical unschooling, I should say, and have released some control, if their kids are used to being highly controlled in the past, kids tend to go a little nuts. Once you just say, okay, you can do whatever you want, kids are like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Because they've never experienced freedom. And so, parents might try it for a couple days and say, wow, this isn't working. These kids are just like acting crazy. And they say this unschooling thing isn't working when in fact they haven't given it enough time. These kids really need to rebuild trust with the parents, because when children, my kids have never had any kind of limits on food, any kind of food, no matter what we've had in the house. And when I say limits, like if we say that we get some new ice cream or something, I might say, make sure you save a bowl for Dad. Like I let them know that Joe wants a bowl, but that's not a limit. I give them information and they choose to respect it because we save foods for them too. So it's not that you're not discussing things. Salt and vinegar potato chips are pretty yummy, and I like when Ivy saves me some. but no one's limited on what to eat. And because of that trust, you guys don't overeat on things. Do you think, generally?
Yeah, I mean, half you guys are vegan. No, you and Tiffany are vegan, so that cuts a lot of the food kind of stuff in half. And only if, me and Dad and Ivy will eat meat a lot. Ryan barely eats. I mean, I guess he eats a fair bit of meat, but usually what I eat is different from all the other kids, so, and you guys, so,
Everyone's developed, and I love that because everyone's developed their own philosophy. Everyone's kind of found what works. Of course, Orion is still little.
Ivy doesn't have one either, I don't think.
No, she was vegetarian for 2 years.
So that's before.
Exactly. She loves Tiff and looks up to her so much, even though she may not ever admit it to Tiffany. But she really was influenced by her decision and wanted to be like her. So she started eating meat again, which I fully support. Which it's amazing when you label yourself and you put yourself in any kind of box, you set yourself up for a lot of judgment by people that all they know are certain degrees of, like, say, veganism, for example. A lot of, like, the hardcore vegan community is appalled that I, quote-unquote, allow my children to eat meat. And then when I pull in the whole idea of freedom and respect and non-control, it kind of blows people's minds a little bit, because they've never considered it before. That my agenda, nothing comes before my children, and no agenda, no matter how important to me, I would ever force on them. So this kind of takes freedom to a level that most people in these subcultures don't understand. So, but I love the opportunity to educate people about non-coercion and nonviolent communication and partnership parenting. So yeah, that's 3 major news stories that were with us about parenting. And if you want to see more and comment or weigh in on the discussion on my author page on Facebook, please feel free to do so. I'd love to hear from you. So Devin, we have, oh my gosh, in just a couple days, we have the Life Rocks Unschooling Conference.
Yippee!
Here in New Hampshire. This is our 4th annual event. We live in the White Mountains. So pretty up here right now. We usually have the conference in April, but we got really busy this year running other events and traveling that we almost didn't have it. And then we had so many people tell us how disappointed they would be if it didn't happen. We pulled it together last minute, and so we're doing it for 4 nights. Well, 3 nights actually. We're going canoeing the last day. What do you love most about unschooling conferences as a teen?
Well, I get to hang out with a large group of people. It's kind of a lot, because I'm kind of bit of a loner kind of.
By choice, do you think?
Yeah, but it's kind of crazy and fun. I get to meet new people, new friends. Get to hang out with my old ones, and it's just.
It is really fun. It's great, I think, when any subculture, anyone listening, I'm sure can relate. When you have a passion about something and you're walking the road less traveled in any way, it feels so good to come together with like-minded people. You don't have to explain yourself. Everybody just gets you on a certain level. And that's what these conferences offer. It's just like a family vacation, basically, a bunch of unschoolers coming together who have the same passions in life. At the same time, we get probably half of our attendees are new to unschooling. And so I offer sessions where I speak and educate people about what the philosophy is about, and we have a lot of different events. We have Dr. Peter Gray, who wrote the book Free to Learn. He's a professor at Boston University, and he is sharing the first study ever conducted and his first presentation ever on this big study that he's done of 75 grown unschoolers and what they're doing now. And I cannot wait to hear it.
That'll be cool. I didn't know it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be so empowering to hear the results of this study, because unschooling, even though it's based in instinctual wisdom and people did it, this is what people did pretty much before schools, it's still really new in our culture. It's, to me, a very evolved, leading edge philosophy of parenting and education. Our family was the first family to ever, quote unquote, come out as an unschooling family in public, in the media. And holy moly, did we receive a lot of crap about that from other unschooling advocates who really wanted to keep the movement grassroots. But we were always kind of living out loud and proud of it, and in turn have educated thousands and thousands of families worldwide about this philosophy. So I always listened to my heart and spoke my truth despite. But it's hard. I mean, I think when you're conditioned, no matter how evolved you may think you are now and how much healing you've done from your past, there's still a certain component of you that is a people pleaser, because we're so conditioned as, well, especially young women, I think. I mean, I think boys definitely as well, but as young women, we were conditioned to be good girls and obedient, and what people thought of us was basically how we thought of ourselves. I want to ask you that, Devin. I have no idea what your answer is, but do you have any inner desire to please others?
Not really. I mean,
do you want people to think well of you?
Yeah, but I want them to think well of me for who I am, not who I become to please them. It's pointless. I mean, yeah.
I mean, obviously we receive so much support from what we've done in the media, but we've received a lot of negative too. Do those comments bother you?
Not at all. I think they're all down.
Well, I'm so blown away. I mean, even if, oh my gosh, if you only came out of your childhood and teen years as having this solid self-love that you do, as a result, it will have all been worth it. Of course, there's so many benefits to living this kind of life that it's going to far, far outweigh just that. I mean, the skills you've perfected pursuing your own education and what you're meant to do in life is huge too, but that self-preservation, that self-love, I'm blown away that because I still deal with that sometimes. I try not to go to message boards after we've been on TV because they warn you not to. The producers say, whatever you do not visit them. And that's God. If somebody tells me not to do something, what's the first thing I'm going to do? It's do it. I'm a natural born rebel. I can't help it. It's just who I am. Just like today, Devin and I were walking around Abishan hardware store, and there was a sign, there was a sign on a door that said, do not enter. And you remember what I said? I said, I want to go in there so bad because you're telling me not to. So this is what trained obedience does to people. It makes them want to rebel.
I still feel the same way, though.
Yeah, true. It's it's just, what about a sign that just says, hey, this is for employees,
I still want to go in. Employees only. Hey, it's not very nice.
Well, it's like you can't help but naturally push up against any kind of control. It's just what we humans do. And even if you break someone down enough to be so fearful of the repercussions, they turn inward. And that's when things get really fucked up. Because when you do not allow somebody and they are so fearful to convey who they are and their needs and their wants, they turn inward. And that's when things happen and you suffer from things called anorexia or alcohol or drug abuse or nail biting, or it warps your identity completely. So either you turn to an outward rebel. Hey, I've tried every form of rebellion there is, trust me. Devin's showing me his knife right now. If you could all see it, you'd be so impressed. It's absolutely awesome. I had nightmares about it, though. I was watching this series. I don't know if anyone listening's ever seen it, The Following. That is one stabby-ass show. That's all they do is stab each other on that show. That the storyline's so good. I
don't watch it. I missed the first 2 episodes, so I'm just not watching it. But, you guys were always talking about it, and I was like, yeah, whatever. Whenever I walk by the TV and someone's getting stabbed, I'm like, yeah, we're not kidding.
Well, it's interesting. It's about
has anyone ever gotten killed by a gun before?
Not in this show.
Really?
I don't think so. Maybe once. Maybe by the cops.
Stabbing.
It's a very stabby show, but it's a really fascinating show about cults. And it's funny, even we as unschools have been accused of being in a cult that we're an unschooling cult. Isn't that weird? I don't know what the true definition of a cult is. I always thought it was something really twisted. Charles Manson, like that it always involved murder, but there was something like 77,000 cults in our country right now. I wonder if anyone listening is in a cult. Statistically, there must be. But anyway, it's amazing that the series of just the way that somebody can control somebody else like that with fear. And I think that, in a sense, it's a cult with traditional parenting, isn't it? And what do cults do? They control with fear. They make you want to please them.
Can I just add something?
Yeah.
I don't think all the cults are from fear. I think a lot of them are more like, you'll be accepted here. So if you want to be accepted, I guess that's...
Yeah. I mean, you'll find a place of people that love you and support you and be your quote-unquote family.
It's still kind of the same, though.
Yeah.
Kind of fear-based.
People are really fearful of being alone. Except for you. And except for a lot of unschoolers I know.
I want to be alone now.
Yeah, but dude, that's like a whole nother level of why this life is so profound, because I think that some human beings are really thrive when they're alone. But when you have your identity torn from you and your existence, the existence that's modeled to you is that you're here to please the adults around you and please others, and that you have no identity. You don't even know who you are. The thought of being alone and alone with your own thoughts, it drives you nuts. You can't even fathom, because everything you are is a reflection of how other people are telling you to be. So without that constant mirror saying, you're good, you're pleasing me, you're good, you're okay, you're lost. However, you and other unschoolers I know have that so intact. I would love to be in your head. I want to see what's going on I want to see what's going on in your mind, like, because so much of human existence and what's natural is self-doubt. For a lot of people, self-doubt, fear, it's like neurotic inner chatter. You know, like, you don't have, what do you think about?
I don't know, stuff.
Keep in mind that I like the show to be authentic to my listeners. These aren't questions that we rehearse or even talk about ahead of time. It's important for me if I'm going to, I think it's so condescending to put a child on the spot or a teen or anyone on the spot and ask them a question that you know the answer to. We've had a couple speakers at conferences that have done that with their teens on the teen panel, and it drives me, it's so fake. So that's one thing Devin and I always have between us, that 90% of the time, I might know a little bit of the direction you're going to go in, but before we go on,
mom, I mean.
Right, but before we go on air, like, I say to him, like, I want you to be yourself and answer authentically. There's no script, there's no right answer. The only answer is your authenticity and your authentic answer. And that's what I want people to know. If we're gonna live out loud and we're gonna put ourselves out here for you guys to learn about and grow from, I want you to know the reality of this life. And I want you to know Devin for who he is. But I'm always fascinated with your self-preservation. So on the that show that we're watching,
Lost Bush People?
Yeah, it was interesting, and it really got me thinking, because the dad on the show, he lost his whole family in a plane crash. So he then in turn had how many kids? 8?
8 kids.
8 kids.
5 boys. No. We had 7 kids. 2...
Well, in either case, the kids that they had, he wanted to keep his family really close as a result of pain. You know, he felt such a loss. He was alone. He lost his whole family. So he said, when I have kids, I want us to be very close and never be pulled into the cultural mindset of separateness. And I loved that about him. So it made me think that benefits do come. It depends on who you are as a person. I think sometimes when you go through tragedy and pain and control and abuse as a child, one of two things can happen. And either you become sick as an adult and you do what your parents did, you just repeat things, or you drug yourself and medicate yourself, or you go on to use that as your benefit. And to me, living the life that I did, I knew that when I had kids, I wanted them to have freedom and I wanted them to have respect that I never had. And so to me, now looking back, I'm so grateful for anything I went through as a child and teen so I can give you a better life. So I think you can take anything you've been through and turn it around to be extremely beneficial. What do you think, Devin, after having two sisters that drive you nuts?
That's an understatement.
That's reality right there. Devin has a really hard time with his sisters lately. I don't know if it's an age thing.
It's a music thing, mostly.
Music? Well, being teens, music I know is really important too.
It's not even that important to me. I just don't like theirs at all.
Why?
It's just terrible. It's all poppy, and it's poor. The lyrics are terrible. They're completely sexist and racist, and it's just terrible. I don't know why people want to listen to such horrible music. Usually the music I listen to doesn't even have any lyrics.
Yeah, I much prefer the music that you listen to. But anyway, so every child is different regardless if they're raised in an unschooling life or not. I think Tiffany, she loves modern pop culture as we've talked about before, and Ivy just kind of loves whatever. She's open to her listening to whatever. And Orion pretty much just likes Minecraft right now. Yeah. So we have the the UK Peaceful Parenting and Natural Learning Conference happening this September in Peterborough, United Kingdom. So if I have any listeners over in the UK, you guys have got to come to this event and meet us, connect with Devin, connect with other unschoolers and people that are living this life. We have a lot of young adults coming without kids. This isn't just for families. This is for anyone wishing to learn about this new partnership paradigm that's, when I say it's new culturally, but it is growing fast. I can't believe how many people I have connect with me every day, every week, every month. Hundreds, if not thousands of more families have connected, and we're helping people understand this life so much. Ooh, I wrote an article today that I thought I would read to you guys to kind of wind out the show. It's short. I'd say, I don't even know if you'd call it an article. It's like a couple paragraphs, but I was inspired by a question that I received.
Wait, Mom, before you start.
Yeah.
There's a new TV show on in 5 minutes. Do you mind if I just go a little bit early?
Oh, of course not. Go ahead. What is it? What's the show?
Dual Survival. It's a new season of it, and there's a new guy, and it's very exciting for me.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to go watch that.
Okay, tape it so I can see it.
It already
Or is it even called taping nowadays? We record it.
I don't even do that. It's just everything records on that.
Okay.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for being on, Dev. Okay. Devin's watching his new episode of Dual Survival. He's been dying to see the new guy joining something or other. Anyway, so this article is called Arbitrary Rules, Absolute Risk. I recently received a question: if you don't punish your children, how will they learn that in the world that there are laws and consequences if they're broken? And here is my response in an article. We live life with laws every day with our children. We model for them how to live with laws, and they witness what happens when we break laws, like getting a ticket for speeding. Guilty, I've done that. We were told by our parents that punishing us was necessary to teach us about the consequences in life. However, arbitrary rules and punishments, just for the sake of teaching us, model unrealistic circumstances and is inauthentic, which damages our relationship with our parents, which is the very foundation so crucial to learn and grow from. When we do this to our children, our positive influence in their lives is destroyed. Ulterior motives through arbitrary limits and rules aren't honest, and our children know it. It is completely unnecessary to create arbitrary limits and artificial consequences and wield power over our children to teach them that there are laws in this world. In fact, doing so will create such confusion and frustration within them that they're at a great disadvantage in life through built-up resentment and pain from someone they love being cruel and unjust toward them just for the sake of a lesson that they'll learn, that they could simply learn by living by our side. There are real-life limits, laws, and natural consequences all around us and our children, and our kids experience them with us. It's unnecessary and damaging to create them artificially in the home when time spent controlling children could be time spent connecting with them. Through discussion and modeling, our children learn not only about the laws in our world, but they have the added benefit of a rock-solid foundation of love, support, and trust with us as parents. This is what is severely lacking in the authoritarian paradigm of parenting, and this puts children raised this way at a great disadvantage. Loving parents never need to be mean to their children to prepare them for the real world. And punishments, I will say to my listeners, punishments do model meanness, regardless of how you think your children are perceiving it. They are not learning the lesson at all that you think they're learning from it. They're learning that power rules and that their parents are mean to them. And it just wrecks the trust that's so essential for your child if you're supposed to be teaching them and guiding them and educating them about things. When you ruin that trust, they don't believe you. They have so much built up resentment that they're not allowed to show. Like we talked about, they turn it inward, or they don't take you seriously or believe you ever if you can't take them seriously and respect them. So, okay, when love is the guiding force of learning about our world, instead of fear, we prepare children to live in our world with reverence and love for others, and allow them to be in a place of acceptance and understanding for the laws that they choose to live with. Now, I say they choose to live with, because if there's certain laws that are different from country to country, and if you don't like some of the laws here, you can move. You have that choice and freedom. We talk about laws, and I think that some are ridiculous, and we do talk about them. We talk about why we obey them. Unfortunately, there's many rules that don't feel just to us, but we choose to live in this country. So as a result, sometimes you just have to live with them. But it doesn't mean that you can't make strides to change them in a peaceful way, which is something that I'm going to talk about on a future show. So for those of you that have tuned in tonight, thank you so much for listening. I am so grateful to be walking this path of supporting other people and educating them about this life. It's not something I ever thought I would do. I was a really shy girl. When I was a young girl, I remember throwing up before oral reports the next day. I hated it. I hated speaking in front of people. I thought I was so bad at things like that, when the truth was, all of those years, was that I didn't like to be forced to speak about things that didn't have any meaning in my life and that I didn't care about. It's amazing how you can blossom as a person and reach your full potential when you have the freedom to speak about things that make you feel alive and things that make you feel so empowered and things that you want to support other people on the path of. So thank you so much for supporting me and inviting me into your home to share with you about my beliefs. I know that sometimes I'm a lone voice talking about these kind of things, but I believe it in my heart, and I see the amazing results of hundreds, if not thousands,